When we open a particular playlist page, here we see the list of lessons that belong to the particular playlist. So I'm going to create new store for managing lesson data. Let's call this file lessons.ts. An example of skeleton for defining store I'm going to copy over from text store and paste it inside lesson store. In here we'll do all necessary modifications. We're gonna manage lesson objects, so I'm gonna modify this interface, call it lesson. Every lesson is going to have 4 fields: identifier, title, description, and duration. Of course, all mentions of text have to be replaced with lessons. And we are eventually returning an array of lessons to the outside world. So I will simply populate this array with random lesson objects, but duration field has to be actually number instead of a string, so let's modify this interface respectively. And now to be able to bind lessons to playlists, I'm going to switch over to playlist store and add another field inside the playlist interface that will be called lesson IDs, since every playlist is going to have an array of lesson identifiers associated to the particular playlist. I will also modify every playlist object from the playlist array so that each object is going to also have an array of lesson identifiers within lesson IDs property. Alright, cool. After doing this, I would suggest to fix the following thing. Every time we open up playlist page, we're seeing that lesson slug is the same all the time. Let's do it in a proper way, and instead of showing hard-coded slug, we're going to show the slug of the first lesson of the particular playlist. All those playlist page addresses are contained within playlist grid item component. Let's open up this component. And before going further, let's also modify this playlist type, because now each playlist object also contains lesson identifiers as an array of numbers. So instead of hard-coding lesson slug inside this link, I'm going to fetch particular lesson from the store. Let's call use lesson store to get the store object. And then to fetch particular lesson by its ID, let's call getLessonById function and supply this function with a lesson identifier that we can fetch from the lesson IDs property of the playlist. We're fetching the first lesson identifier, because every time when we open a particular playlist page, we should always show the first lesson of this playlist. But yeah, this function getLessonById does not exist yet. Let's open up lessons store and declare this function that is going to take identifier of the particular lesson that we need to fetch. And then by using native find method, we can find particular lesson by its identifier by using the following condition within this closure. We're basically comparing identifier of the lesson received as the first parameter into this function with an identifier of the particular lesson from the store. Let's not forget and also expose this function to the outside world. Now that we have the way to fetch lesson by its identifier, we get this lesson in the component, and then we need to grab its slug. And the way we're getting slugs of playlist as well as lessons is this one. We're firstly calling to lowercase method on the title of the lesson or playlist, and then we're replacing all spaces with dashes. And after this, we're ready to interpolate this lesson slug variable into this address, like so. As a reminder, this component represents particular playlist card, so that when we click on the playlist card, we open up playlist page. So now as you can see, as I'm going to click on a particular playlist card, in the address bar, we're always going to get the slug of the particular lesson of the playlist. And every time, this slug will be different, depending on which playlist we're going to click on. And while we're here, we can also properly update these two headings, because for now, they're always the same for each playlist. Let's open up component that is responsible for showing individual playlist page. This page component is called playlist/ within square brackets. And now to be able to fetch title of the particular playlist, we first of all have to fetch playlist from the store. We're going to do it by using getPlaylist by / function, which is not defined yet. So as a next step, I'm going to switch over to playlist store and add this function, which is going to take / of the playlist as a parameter, and then by using method find, we can easily find particular playlist object by /. Let's copy over the expression by using which we are converting titles into slags, like so, but in here we have to reference playlist object, and then let's compare the result of this expression with the slag that we have received as a parameter into this function, like so. Let's expose this function to the outside world, get back to playlist page component, and call this function in order to fetch particular playlist by its slag, and the slag we can get from the route object. The current route object we can get by calling useRoute composable function, and then by referencing particular route param. In our case, route param is called playlist slag. As a reminder, this route param corresponds to the dynamic segment of the route, and this dynamic segment is the part of this component name, enclosed in the square brackets. We can also combine those two lines into one, like this. And down here in the template, let's reference proper fields to fetch title and description of the playlist, and pass them down to the app section header component. Alright, before checking the result, let's fix the function name. It should be playlists in plural, and also useRoute is actually the function, so let's call it right here. And there we go. Whenever we're gonna click on a particular playlist, every time we're going to see that proper title and description of the playlists are shown in here. Let's continue working on the project in the next lesson.